Hello, everyone. My name is Rick, also known as Rick's Two Cents. Thank you for joining Shop Talk Live, along with my fellow co-host Steve from Steve Makes Everything,
Howdy.
Andy from Andy Bird Builds,
Hey, what's up?
and Roger from Roger's Shop.
Howdy, howdy.
Looks like we already have quite a few people in the live. Thank you for joining and commenting early. Clayton, aloha from Hawaii. Everyone, please smash that like button. Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to say thank you too to everyone who's been joining our Facebook group. It's actually been really cool seeing everyone's work. It's really cool. Yeah. And I do challenge anyone to build a better palette than me. Anyone who missed it, it was a joke. It said, I built this palette from an old table. I thought it was fun. And I did get beat up a little bit. I got some comments.
To answer Steven's question, I am feeling much better than I was last Wednesday. I peaked in misery last Wednesday.
Did you see the Wilson that was standing in your place?
No, I didn't watch the last week's stream.
Oh, I had a Canadian Dry.
Oh, did you?
I said, here's Steve's Canadian Dry.
If it was anything else but dry.
So someone sent me an email, and I'm not going to retract my statement, but I guess I'm going to clarify my thoughts. And I had no problem people calling me out on things. And we had mentioned, or we were talking about making items to sell, right? And I said, I personally do not make an item that's under $35 unless it's a quantity, right? So like if I'm not going to make a $5 item. Like I'm just not, but if somebody ordered, let's say a bulk of 150 of them, that's a whole different story, right? So someone said, well, hey, I make a ton of money on $5 items and ornaments. So to each his own, but to me, that's just the way I bulk it. But I thought about what they said. And what I said is everyone's making these Christmas trees, right? These 3-layered, 3-tiered triangle Christmas trees. And they're averaging about $10 to $15. And what I was thinking is, as my whole $35 object comes into play, that you could collectively put something together. Maybe it's a reindeer and then 3 Christmas trees, or you could bulk something together and stage it, right? Because if you just take a picture of it on your workbench versus if you had the 3 Christmas trees, maybe one's white, one's green, one's red, and then a little CNC cutout reindeer or something like that, and you had 3 or 4 different items, then that $5 to $10 item could amount to the $35 to $40 items, and it's already pre-set up in your home or pre-set up, stage, and they think about purchasing it. So not knocking anyone's hustle. Everyone has a different method to their madness. But I was thinking that if you are a person who sells $5 and $10 items, try bundling them with other items so that it amounts to a higher amount.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I 100% agree with you. I remember this question or us talking about this last week, and Steve wasn't here to keep us on track, so we got off the rails. There's something else
that I can't help it.
Well, Steve, there's something else I'll have to clear the air on in a little bit that I got called out about last week. It got wild last week. Let me just tell you.
Oh, really? I'm gonna have to go back and watch it then.
But no, I think you're right. And it's just like, anytime we're talking about like a side hustle or making money, like there's so many different options. There's no right or wrong. Like I get this on my YouTube channel, like questions or comments about, like whether something's right or wrong. It's like, that's relative to what you're trying to do and what you want to do. And like, there is no right or wrong when you're creating and so everybody gets something different out of it. Like selling $10 items, there's nothing wrong with that. I've sold a crap load of $10 items. But I completely get too. Like you have, like in your situation, like you have a full-time gig, right, a full day job, where you're probably working more than the average person. And so for you to fire something up to take on a custom $10 order, you're just like, no thanks. No, not that that's not right for someone else, but
Where the $10 items excel is when you do things like markets, right? Because people have cash, like, small cash, and
Coasters.
yeah. Well, if you're going to make a $50 coaster, then go for it. Yeah, but coasters is a good example, right? If you're at a fair or a market, then those things will sell.
All right. Steve's asked, how much did I get for those jack-o'-lanterns? I sold the jack-o'-lanterns for $35, and then the breast cancer ones I sold for $40. So I sold almost $1,500. It was $1,200, and then I sold more after Halloween. So, yeah. So those are, to me, were success. But adding the whole breast cancer thing that was not even an object I was trying to sell, was purely a gift to my wife. And then also just the ribbon itself, not realizing like how many ribbons there are and what they all different stand for. And like that in itself is like a huge market. Now I'm making purple ones and I'm making yellow ones and that was not. So sometimes you find something unintentional. So,
I think something to also that a lot of people forget on this. Last thing I'll say about this, because I could talk about this all night, unless someone has a question, but is really, it's not about like the final price that you're selling it for. It's really the profit margin on the item, because you could sell a $30 item and have $35 into it. It's a bad idea to sell that product. On the same side, you could sell a $10 item and have $1 into it, and you're like, well, that's a pretty good margin. Maybe that's worth my time. So, that's more important than what you're selling the item for, is really what you're retaining after your cost. So,
Terrible at Fishing said, I'm having my first sale this week, and I was thinking low prices. My wife says I should mark up more. There's nothing wrong with fishing. And what I mean by that is you're just fishing your market. You're trying to see what bites and what doesn't, right? Because then maybe your next big sale or maybe your next big event, you're going to bulk up on something. There's nothing wrong with not going, gung-ho on one particular item and kind of seeing what sells. Because even, let's just say, you went to one town, and that particular area brings in 3 different towns. That demographic area could sell this item, but you could go an hour away and not sell at all. So
yeah, use the Costco model, right? You always have the $1.50 hot dog, right? You have something that is just a lost leader. You're gonna make them. It's really just to get people to come and talk to you, and then you upsell them on. You can buy that cheap thing, or you can buy this one that's much nicer.
Right. And we keep talking about that longer nano. Like if you had something like that and you're just running a coaster, even if you don't have like this well-established booth and you have something that just drags them in, their attention. Let's say I'm next to Andy. Andy's been doing this a long time. And here I look like, somebody that just took their picnic table out of their backyard, which I would have, and threw a sheet over it. And Andy has this big spread with his name on the top banner and these things stretch over the bottom. How do you compete with Andy, right? Literally. So you have to draw somebody in. So to me, you're not going to have the same as Andy, right? He's established, been doing this a long time. So if you want to level the playing field a little bit, if you did have a functioning laser, people will come just to look, and even if you don't have the item that they want, that's when you can still sell them and make it. That's just my advice, especially starting out. Mm-hmm. Chris said, I've seen people stumble on a niche and not renegotiate his niche as a market. Yeah. So that's why I said, I think it's important to find your niche, but it's also to remember Walmart, Home Depot, Best Buy, any big box retail store, they all do the same thing. Every season, they have seasonal items. So it's okay to fall back on your niche. Like I'm a memorial niche. I like to make memorial stuff, but it doesn't mean I didn't make breast cancer awareness things. It doesn't mean I made a jack-o'-lantern or, maybe the Day of the Dead is kind of long memorial, but, but you can have other items. Dropping in to show my face.
What's up?
He keeps popping up on my Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah, it keeps popping
Speaking of Facebook, I now have my Steve Makes Everything Facebook account sorted out. It was a bit weird there for a few days, but if anybody wants to join my Facebook page, you're welcome to. I'll gladly accept you, because it's effectively a brand new account now. So I have a few lonely people from some of my Chinese connections and for vendors, but now we need friends.
Yeah. So I have my Rick's Two Sons Facebook page too, but the whole idea that I wanted the separation was because I thought people would think that I would be upset by them posting their own stuff on my page, like you're promoting your stuff on my page, right? So the whole idea of doing the Shop Talk Live was it's not exactly our page, it's the Shop Talk Live's page. So feel free to post whatever you want. And I did see people share a lot more freely. Most of those people on that group, they're just invited from my page or whatever. So a good bulk of them. So it's funny that they've already been following. They didn't post. When you took them out of that equation, it's like a group setting. They're posting a lot more freely, and that's the point of that. That's what I wanted people to do.
Yeah.
Clayton said I sell a lot of $5 earrings, big profit. I think Steve, you were the one that said if you bought a whole sheet like a plywood, a 4x8,
you buy one sheet of 1/8" plywood or 1/8" acrylic, cut earrings out, and you'll pay for your laser.
Right.
One sheet.
So I get it, and that's why I said so. There's there's no right answer or wrong answer.
Yeah.
It's just there's gonna be something that that you do, and there's a method. Like I said, there's a method to your madness, and that's what I do. And the other thing I want to say something is, don't lose out on artwork. These companies want you to do this, want you to do that. Charge for the artwork. Charge for it. Don't spend 3 hours creating some custom artwork for someone. Especially sometimes they want the file because they might use it for something else. Charge for it. Don't lose out on that money. Terrible fishing. I was going to take orders at the event and see what's popular. Your suggestion is wise.
Yeah, the other thing events are good for is to figure out where you need to stretch out of your niche, right? It's like talk to people, because I was actually talking to a friend of mine who's just kind of getting into this market now, and he went to a market this past weekend, and he said, I made a whole bunch of things I thought that I would sell lots of, sold none of them, but he got to meet a lot of people who said, oh, if you only had this, right? And you kind of spot those trends and use them as marketing opportunities too.
Andy, I caught in one of your videos, you said that having a passion to sell something, but selling's not always your passion. If I'm kind of quoting you right? Or putting in my own words. And I think that's pretty much what Steve kind of mentioned, that just because you're geeky into something or that's your passion, that's not always going to sell. But at the same token, just if it's not your passion, doesn't mean you have to do it. That's what you choose to do. Like, if Steve can make $1 million making coasters and he hates coasters, we all know Steve hates coasters, he'd do it. Or maybe he would.
I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't. But you have to look past your own biases for sure. Like this guy. So this guy's his niche is he makes parental educational tools. So parents can buy them to work with their kids, right? And he thought he uses them himself. And I said, yeah, they look cool. But he took them to a market and sold none of them. But he said, what I did do was learn a lot. And, even in his own niche, other things he could make that people would buy a lot of. And
if you are, this is such a great point. It's so valuable. If you don't learn anything else tonight, like what you just said could save you save people such a headache. Like I see a lot of people, and I've heard from a lot of people that get discouraged with craft shows or like in-person events like that. And it's a lot of prep work, right? They build all this stock. They go to an event that they don't know what it's going to be like. It's their first one, but they have this expectation of, like, maybe it's a number in their head, but it's monetary focused, right? It's like success, failure. If I don't make X amount from this first event, and I hear a lot, they're so discouraged. Like they'll go and they'll, sell $100 and they're like, well, I spent a week preparing for this and I only made $100.
And it cost me $150 to go.
Yeah.
And yeah, well, that's the thing. He paid money too to go and he made no money back. But what he said was he got a satisfaction out of it because he got to talk to a lot of people who were encouraging, right? Nobody looked at his stuff and said, "Oh, that's terrible," right? Like, why would I ever buy that? They looked at it and said, "That's cool, but what I really want is this other thing."
This is why I'm thinking you're seeing a lot more pop-up shops of makers. Like, it's this storefront is literally, they don't make anything of their own. They're going to all these different makers and they're selling all different type of items. This is why I think you're starting to see more and more of these, because people are discouraged, and it can have a little more courage to put something out there because you don't have an immediate reaction to someone's response to what you have for sale, right? Just sitting on the shelf and you can kind of just see what happens, but when you're upfront and personal and someone, their reaction, like can cut a little deep.
Yeah, it can. And I think, to go, Rick, with what you said, you're talking similar to this, but think about it as like fishing. That's what a lot of it's like. Like, you can, you're exploring, you're learning, you're trying to figure out what works, and it's like it's such a big, a big thing for most people. Like, the first time you put your stuff out there, man, that's a lot. It takes a lot of courage, and it's easy to judge, like, oh, I didn't sell X amount, so it was a failure. And that is not true at all. There's so much to learn, like Steve said. And you learn and you get better next time. And, or you learn what works, what doesn't work. And it's definitely not like taking a test. That's pass, fail.
Fall forward.
Yeah. It's a cumulative thing. Learn from people, figure out what other people are doing, what other vendors are doing, what other events to go to. Cause it might not be you at all. It may be just the event.
Right.
Yeah, I was just going to say that it's one of the things you learn is what markets you want to attend, right? Like, I don't know how much people know about markets, but there's the basic, Saturday morning flea market style market, and then there's artisan markets, right? And you're going to sell to very different people when you're targeting those, and you're not going to sell the same stuff.
So I think people take these markets, however you want to say it, whichever they may be, as a stepping stone, right? I think most people's first approach is Facebook Marketplace or Facebook alone. They sell to their friends and family, and then they get a little courage to step outside of their comfort zone, and so that comfort zone, outside their comfort zone, is that market. So that could be very discouraging if you don't. But lick your wounds and keep moving. If you buy it, then that sucks. Make something else and keep going.
And if you're not brave enough to go to and start yourself at a market, just visit the markets or go to the shows, look around, see what's selling, see what people are selling stuff for and what's popular. That's a great way to find out what you can go back home and make.
Yep.
It's free to walk around and talk to those people who aren't selling things, right?
Yep.
And find out why.
Right. STL says, Andy, CNC needs to talk to you about something next few weeks.
Cool. Hit me up.
He said, show me the money. Cha-ching, cha-ching. Thank you. Warrior Woman.
Warrior Woman, thanks a lot.
Making it rain.
Appreciate it.
Trail Fishing said, mostly a fishing and hunting niche I was shooting for. Yeah.
Sweet.
Go for
No
it.
pun intended, of course.
So to piggyback on that fishing idea that I was sharing, like, the really interesting and demoralizing thing and humbling thing is that you can figure out, if you have fished at all, you can figure out the exact bait you need, the exact location, when to go, and maybe you had success one day or a previous week, and you can go back to that same fishing hole and catch nothing.
Yep.
Like, and so anytime when you're selling, you're dealing with people. People are, it's constantly changing. It's fickle, and so being like committing to, it's almost the game and enjoying the game of it is necessary. You have to enjoy that challenge,
So to me, my advice would be, if you're doing hunting and fishing niche, then your niche should be signs. And although you may be making hunting and fishing, I'd bring a 3-ring binder and make up some pages of different examples and let people flip through that.
Yeah.
Because you have gone fishing sign and somebody else bought a sign that says don't pee in my pool. You know what I mean? So so and they'll pay you right now and you can mail it to them, they'll pick it up, they're local, whatever. So there's no problem that you grab someone's attention, but you don't have to have 2,000 signs. I have like this huge 3-ring binder that I have a ton of my stuff in. And I can put that out. I can show people, give them ideas, and then you can customize it. It doesn't have to be that way too. So
I'm a little more new school in that my work is on my phone.
Yeah.
I did like the tattoo shop approach. You know what I mean? When you walk in, they have those.
Yeah, but you can't if you're at a dinner party or something or at a bar. You can't really be carrying your 3-ring binder around, right? You'll look like
I can see Rick just bringing in, plopping that big thing on the table. Like, let me show you something.
It's like that thing.
Good conversation starter.
It's that big giant one, the big 3, like the humongous one. Yeah, that's what I have.
Yeah. Now, to what Andy said about his fishing analogy about not catching something the next day, I'm a big data analytics guy. I spent a good chunk of my career building tools for data analytics. So if I came to a spot where the next day I didn't catch anything, the immediate thing I would do is discover why, right? Or at least surmise why today is not good. And it could be a number of reasons, right? The wind changed or whatever. And I think you have to do that when you're selling things too, right? It's like people are fickle, markets are fickle. You just have to go, okay, what's different today than last week when I sold a whole bunch of things?
And if you stick out like a sore thumb, then maybe we're at the wrong event. You showed up to an event, there's a bunch of crocheting stuff, and you're a woodworker. You're like, damn, like I'm not gonna sell anything. Like, you know what I mean? Like beaded necklace, the jewelry. You're just at the wrong kind of event. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's very possible.
There's nothing wrong with that. Chad from Christmas Light said, "Hey everyone, fairly new to the laser world. I have a question about engraving. Do you know what would cause a laser to do what looks like almost double engraving?"
Well, how many passes do you have your layer set to do? I know some people make the mistake that they'll set it for multiple passes when they really only need one pass.
And when I would also say, do you mean double engraving? Is it like a ghost or phantom image, like almost like smoke on the outside of it, or is it literally an engraved pad?
Yeah. So what I was thinking of this was if you're bidirectional print engraving and your laser is not calibrated properly for offsets, you can get this. So the first thing I would check is in Lightburn in the settings for in the detailed settings. So if you click on the the little color thing up in the upper right corner, if you click on that and go to the detail, make sure that if you have bidirectional engraving selected, you also have the offset set to, I don't know, about 2.5% or something minimum. And the other alternative, so I have this issue with my CO2 laser. If I'm engraving really quickly, it can't turn around fast enough and get the laser turned back on again to create nice uniform things. So I had to do a lot of calibration with this offset in Lightburn to compensate for that. And now it's great, but it is one of these things that you have to learn. It's calibration of your laser in Lightburn is most likely the problem.
And if you are using offset, sometimes depending on what laser you're using, sometimes offset just is screwy. Right?
Yeah, well, yeah, it will be, right?
Yeah, if
your laser needs offset and you don't have it turned on, or you have the wrong calculations there,
right? But if you don't need to
end
use
up
it
with it, you can make it worse than it is naturally if you turn all that stuff off, right? So, you have to know what you're doing. Now, Lightburn has some good tutorials on how to compensate for a lot of these things. So check out their site and you'll find out some interesting things, guaranteed.
Warrior Woman said, I got my Bamboo X1 combo yesterday, practiced on the A1 Mini, then gave it to my nephew. Still learning. Question, do you need to vent your laser if you use PETG?
I think you mean, do you need to vent the printer? Yes. Don't close the door and leave the top on PETG unless you're in a cool room. You're
Yeah.
going to have to kind of do a few test passes. And a little story about the Bamboo X1 combo. I bought another one on Black Friday. They had
Oh,
a
you
special
did?
going on. I took another X1 carbon, and it was supposed to be delivered December 16th after I get back from Mexico. Well, guess what? It got delivered today. I'm in Mexico. So I had to
What's
get a
your
hold of my-
address, Roger?
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Well,
Had to
if
get a hold of my-
if you weren't over an hour and 35 minutes from me, I'd say I'd go over and bring it inside.
I think it's worth the trip, Rick.
He's more than
I
an
got-
hour from me,
Yeah.
and I'd still go.
I got a hold of my
neighbor?
granddaughter. Got a hold of my
Okay.
granddaughter and had her put it inside. So
Okay. So for those who don't know, Roger, do you want to explain what the PETG is?
it's just a type of filament without getting into the chemical compositions. It's a little bit more flexible and durable than a PLA is or
So-
ABS.
So are
It's
there
not
different types
It's
of
not subject to sun degradation. It's the stuff that they make water bottles out of.
Yeah.
so are there certain types that are more toxic or concerning when using a 3D printer?
ABS. If you're using
ABS.
ABS, you need to, or nylon even. If you're, especially with ABS, you need to vent your printer. So of course you have to have it closed up, and there's a fan on there to keep it cool, but you don't want that vented into the room you're in. That gets pretty nasty.
So Roger, you talked me into it. I picked up a P1.
Nice.
So
has it been shipped yet?
I have it. I've been using it.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I bought it maybe last Thursday, and it got here yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have to do a 3D scan and make a bobblehead of Roger.
Yeah, I do. I need to do it.
Roger, every time I bought this because of Roger.
Yeah. But no, I don't have a ton of 3D printing experience. I have a little bit. It's pretty wild, and I haven't messed with 3D printing in probably 5 years.
So be honest.
I was really impressed with just like how far it's come. And
The technology.
it is mind blowing, and how fast it is. And accuracy. It's just like, how can you squeeze out plastic at that speed, at that accuracy? It just blows my mind.
So Andy, be honest. Was it purchased to make money, or was it purchased because of a cool toy to have?
Ooh, is my wife listening? It's work.
It's cool to have.
So,
Maybe it'll make money later. Right now, it's just cool to have.
right.
Chris said, lately I've been making more fixing purchases. I'm sorry. Lately I've been making more fixing purchases files to make them laser friendly. You know, I think it's so crazy that how many people only purchase files for everything. And it's like, you have to be able to edit your own files. Like, I know I'm big into the apparel industry, and I've had a person like begging me to design all their shirts. And I'm like, dude, like, you got to learn this. Like, no, I'm not going to do it. Like, I'll spend 5 minutes with you in Canva and give you some pointers. No. All caps, and then no right back at you.
Yeah,
Sorry.
It's a little different with 3D files because you have there's a learning curve, right? You have to learn how to do 3D modeling, which is that extra dimension just blows people away sometimes. So
right, but eventually it's something that you should learn. You know, if you can
definitely.
You can only make something that you purchase. If you have a customer that wants something that's not exactly what they want, by being able to edit the file, you're a whole lot better off, because you didn't find the token sold item on Etsy. Everyone found that same item, right? So I'm going to go to a trade show tomorrow, and I'm going to make this bowl that I found on Etsy. So did everybody else.
Yeah. And like when you start out with a 3D printer, the first thing you're going to say is, what am I going to do with this thing? And once you start doing 3D modeling and building STL files that you can put on your 3D printer, you start using it for everything. Like this is an optic mount for my overhead frame here. And, I could buy one, but then I'd have to try to find it, and now I can build one exactly what I want, right? So it's
Chris
it
said
makes a big difference.
Chris said that maker boutiques are even becoming big here in Australia. So it's just not a States thing. It's becoming a global type of marketing thing. Steven said he sucks at fishing. Sometimes when you go fishing, the only thing you catch is a buzz.
I haven't been fishing for a long time.
I don't mind fishing. I like it.
I used to love it as a kid.
Yeah. Care About Fishing said Saturday I'll be selling my home, a holiday craft sale. Selling at my home, I'm sorry, not selling my home. A holiday craft sale. Coffee and fishing with an invite for others to bring us smile, money, and donuts. That's cool.
That sounds like a win to me.
Yeah, I know at one point Steve was making fun of me because I was selling on Facebook Marketplace and I was saying to people, "Are coming to my house?" And he was like, "Don't you have to be concerned about people coming to your house?" And I'm like, "Yeah." You know what I mean? But you can at least see their profile. And there's something sketcy. You've been like, nah. You know?
Yeah, because nobody will ever fake a profile on Facebook.
I know, but I'm just saying. You know, you know, they wouldn't have what is it, a Miley's Disney profile?
Oh yeah.
Miley on Disney.
Clayton, go to the market, look around 1 year before you start tending to sell your stuff. Yeah. You know what's
Good
also
advice.
not a bad idea is when you go to these markets, some people travel and they may not be in your area, but there's going to be locals. You can also find out who really is your competition.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not tooting my own horn, but locally, close to me, I'm not saying farther away, but close to me, that's like, nah, I got no one who really can make me look bad. Or, you know what, or like, wow. No, put it that way. No one's going to wow me. At least not in my area that I'm aware of. And I've gone to a fair amount of shows. Just to look, could be nosy. Johnny Gardner said, is there a certain amount of things that you take to a market?
Enough.
Wow.
That doesn't help you at all.
You'd hate to run out. That's the thing.
Yeah, it really sucks when you run out and you're thinking, why the hell didn't I make more of those?
Yeah.
And the tedious balance is you have to pay for all these things and keep them as overhead, right? So
yeah.
So you don't want to make $1,000 worth of things that if you only expect to sell 100.
I feel bad people go to these shows with tumblers and they have like 1,000 tumblers, right? And you're just like, oh God. And there's like no one at their booth. Like, I felt bad and actually went and looked, like maybe I'll buy something because, you know, they have so many and nothing to sell it, you know?
So, you know, my granddaughter has fantastic success with tumblers at shows. And she'll have, you know, probably 100 out at a time. And she makes really good money with them.
Nice.
Yeah.
But I think a couple
of everything too, right? Sorry.
A couple helpful tips is whatever you're bringing to set your products on, try to fill it. Like, not like stuff it full, but like make sure there's not a lot of empty space, because that can make it look bare. So that's kind of a
huge table if you don't have a lot of things, right?
Yeah. There's no sense bringing an 8-foot table when you only, you know, have 10 products. I mean, unless they're big, I guess. But yeah, so kind of give that as a reference, and also something. So my sister sells. She makes and decorates cookies, and has a little side hustle doing cookie sales. And so she was asking me. She just started doing events, and she's asking me like, how many should I bring? How many? And it's a great question, especially when it's food related, because you're not bringing that to the next show.
Yep.
So we did some math and like just estimated. And what she did is ask the event organizer like how many people they expected. And this was an established event that had been going for a few years. So they were like, oh, we expect 1,000 people. And so then we just started doing math. Like, okay, if there's 1,000 people that walk by your booth, what's the percentage of people, you know, if 1% of those people bought, that's what, 10 sales? Yeah. That's 10 sales. If 10% of those people bought, that's 100 sales. Man, I'm doing math. I'm talking off my head. This is hurting my head. But no, you can kind of think about it that way. And I think, if 10% of people that went to a show bought from you, like that is like excellent, really, really, really good. If 5%, if 1%, there's a lot of factors in there, but then you can kind of get an idea of like, okay, 1% of people bought from me, I need to have, X amount of product. So that's not a formula, like an exact formula, but putting numbers to it can kind of give you a rough estimate.
The other thing I would say
these
is
are sales conversion rates, right? And
right.
Yes.
a
Yeah.
good a good
Right.
metric that salespeople always use is 2 to 4%.
Yep. And there's a lot of variation.
There's books on this stuff. So
The other thing I would say is that everyone's always hung up on the tables, right? It's okay to have stuff on your tables, but don't be shy about using the background, the wall, because the table is stuff to walk in your booth to see it, especially if you have like this U-shaped configuration. So if there's something mounted on the wall, like you have a cheap rack, that's mounted, even if they don't walk in there, when they're walking by, they may catch their eye and then they walk in. So maybe kind of position, I think these are my top sellers. At this event, these may be your top sellers. Another event, they maybe not. So you can switch it out. And then you can switch it up too and see what works better. So hello guys, thanks for engraving clips. Rock on. Speaking of
cool.
rocks, in my area, they have this thing where they paint rocks and they leave them in public places where kids playgrounds.
Yeah.
And then their parents like take a picture of the rock and it's like this cool. You post it on the Oswego Facebook page, like, oh, they found this rock, it's so cool, and everyone thinks that's cool. So I went to Hobby Lobby and I bought a bunch of rocks, and I'm gonna carve on this fiber laser a bunch of dinosaurs so it looks like a fossil. And I just thought it'd be so cool to leave it around that the kid would think like it's a dinosaur.
There's a beach not far from me, and it's basically made up of stone, like all little round sea wash stones. So they're all smooth and flat.
Nice.
And I go there and pick up nice stones sometimes to engrave, and every once in a while, you make one and you take it back and throw it on the beach, right? And just see if somebody ever finds it.
Yeah, I just think it'd be so cool to be able to see that, it's a pterodactyl. Like, bring your own coffee.
If you're doing stones, just engrave fossils on them.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a parent will know probably. More like maybe not.
Maybe not.
Let me try to sell that. We found the fossil.
Yeah.
It says, Warrior Woman, what about setting up a monitor with a slideshow of your work at the crash show? Good idea.
Sure,
you
we
can
got
do
room.
that.
Yeah, I've done that. We have a tablet where I created just a simple slideshow on it, and it just loops. And so it's set on the table just for people to see. And they're staged photos, like it's the product in use.
Yep.
So people can envision on how they can use it as well. It works great.
And you're a maker, so you can make a nice stand for it.
Steve said you can put photos on a flash drive, hand out some. They're cheap. I don't know if I'd do that personally.
Yeah, people have a bit of an abrasion to flash drives just because they could be polluted with viruses and malware and stuff, right?
Yeah.
It probably isn't, but
Chad said, okay.
But yeah, if you have room for a computer, this falls under the category of shiny light, right? Which keeps people it sparks interest.
So Chad said, okay, I currently have offset off with my longer. So we had some issues with the longer lasers with the offset.
This is the same guy that was talking about
offset fill there's a problem. Some lasers don't do offset fill properly, and I think that's a bug in Lightburn actually.
Yeah.
But offset in the settings is the thing that basically it's the setting that allows the laser to roll past the edge of the engraving, and so it has time to turn around and come back and turn the laser on in time. and I forget what it's called. Let me fire up. Oh, I have Lightburn running right here. Let me remind myself what it's called.
Warrior Woman said, "What other filaments do you need to vent?" And I think Roger answered that already. That was you said.
ABS, and sometimes I'll vent ASA, and I'll also vent nylon, but I hate using nylon because it's so hard to keep the moisture out of it. Yeah, PLA is safe. I wouldn't eat
It's
it.
made
but
out of
safe.
it's made out of corn, right?
Steven's making it rain. Oh, look who's in here.
There you go, Steven.
Black Shack's in the building.
Huh.
Assuming it's a CO2, which is where I see this mirror alignment on last mirror ahead should be crescent shape burn. I think we're back to the offset.
The double engrave.
Yeah.
Or the double mark. Yeah.
It was a longer, so it's not a CO2. It's a diode.
Yeah, it's probably that offset feature or
Yep.
setting. Unfortunately, I'm running Lightburn 2 here, which doesn't have. They've moved that setting somewhere. I don't know where it is.
Imperfect Woodcraft says, Black Friday, I bought the Cobra 3 combo for multicolored prints. A1 was too costly for me. Being used Creality V3 KE, and it's been flawless.
Nice. 3D printer.
Yeah. The real costly thing with color printing is all the excess, the waste.
You have a lot of poop.
I saw this. I never heard of the brand. They must took a hell of a Facebook marketing ad campaign because they're coming up nonstop, and it's like 8 colors. Have you seen this? I almost have to find it. I sent it to myself on Facebook Messenger. By the way, do you guys know you could do that? Did you know on Facebook you can message yourself?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Yeah, now when I see something cool, I'm like, boom, I send it to myself. Because my wife would be like, why are you sending me this crap? I'm like, so I don't forget it.
I would lose it if I sent it to myself.
Yeah, I send it to myself, and I go back to my own messages.
I just bookmark a lot of things. The challenge with Facebook is you get to see it once, and then if you even scroll backwards a few pages, it's probably gone by the time
it's so frustrating.
Yeah.
You said I made $59 yesterday. Go me. I sold 7 ornaments and 2 engraved frames. Nice one.
Sweet job, D.
Tis the season to be selling ornaments, that's for sure.
So to be honest, like I thought I was gonna like gear into this Christmas phase. Like Steve, you said early on, like a couple weeks ago, I wish that I was more productive in being prepared for the season. And I said I'm always kind of like it's here, it's now, and then like celebrate to the end. And I didn't even get into the Christmas things because people are actually wanting customized Christmas gifts. So I've been making challenge coins. Like I didn't even get into the Christmas things because I was making Christmas gifts. Like, man, I got to show you guys this thing. So I got to show you this. So a challenge coin that you guys may already seen that I posted online, but I put it on a keychain. And then this attachment here is for saltwater fishing.
Oh, sure.
Oh, yeah.
Swivel.
So now guess what?
Well, you can get in hypnotism now.
But here's the other thing. See, if you're in the workforce like a lineman, when you buy these, guess what they're rated at? A breaking point. So if you get caught or snagged on this, it's, you can get 35, 75-pound test. And after that time, it is meant to break. A breakaway. Literally, we use those all the time, right, Roger? Breakaways. So they have this on their pocket. And what do you guys think about that? Well, it's pretty shiny, huh?
Man. So is that center? Is this two like a bimetal coin?
No.
Oh, you did. You did it on a MOPA?
No. Temperature polishing.
Oh.
Certain compounds and a certain RPM, I can change it just like with a MOPA. And look, and I can reduplicate it. I made 50 of those coins. Look at that. And that's the back.
50. That's like, what are they taking? About 3 hours a coin?
No. So that's the other thing. That's the other thing that I think is crazy. You see all these people that are making these challenge toys, and they post the settings, right? They're selling you this file, and they're like 256 passes, 512 passes. And I'm like, dude, what? 2 hours and 65 minutes one side. I'm doing 40 passes, 45 passes. My settings, I
Yeah,
don't know
it
anyone
depends.
who's
Like
setting.
if you're
My settings are
doing
way different than everyone.
if you're doing a grayscale image that you've converted to a heat map, there's
Right.
256 distinct shades, and that's what they're doing, right? Now, whether you need to do that, certainly not on a 60 or 100-watt MOPA, you wouldn't need to do that. But
Right, but
I mean, I'm with you. I do like 64 passes, maybe.
No, I don't want to do
128
more
if
than
I want it to
45
be really
passes.
deep.
If I got to do more than 45 passes, I'm bumping up the power. I'm changing my frequency. You know, so the way you got to think about it's like sandpaper, right? So if you want to come down fast and just come in aggressive, but all that means is that when you're done, you're going to clean it up. So you need to do a test and see how aggressive can I be to the point that I don't have fallout detail. Like on the back of this coin, there's a skull, and in the skull is the American flag. Like the stars are raised in its skull. If I was too aggressive, I wouldn't be able to keep that small detail, you know. But at the same token, too, all my coins, nobody likes like a brand new. They all like, and we talked about this too. They like that black in the background. They like that tarnished look or the aged effect, or
I think it's contrast, right?
Yeah, the patina look. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when you patina something, you see how you can see the stars in the skull. You have to leave enough so that when you're polishing and buffing these, you don't buff the detail out. You know, because that's half of the other thing with these challenge coins. Everyone shows you make these challenge coins. I'll get one of the coins that are done. They look like crap.
Yeah, when they come right off the laser, they look pretty rough usually.
This is not impressive. You know, look at the front of that. And look, this is the same coin. You see how it's like a rose gold on the other one? And look at the back. It looks horrible. So if your coins look like this and you think, I'm not doing a good job, no, that's what it looks like. Now it's time for some elbow grease. So, look. That's the same coin. You know what I mean?
Crazy. So I get the temperature buffing, right? Is that what you called it?
Mm-hmm.
But how are you getting that just on the outside edge?
Pressure and RPMs.
These are the Dremel.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And
so
a steady
I know.
hand.
Yeah.
And a steady hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's and like I said, it's not as if it's like a fluke. I'm able to duplicate it over 50 coins and they look identical. So I got it down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
if I was doing those, I'd use the color capability of a MOPA because it's easier. You need a lot less elbow grease.
You know, and Steve, you had mentioned too, like, why don't I use one of those? Polishers?
Like a mag tumbler, right?
I thought about using one of those just to get it super polished and then do it by hand afterwards because I'm leaving some compound behind, and that's how I'm creating that patina effect.
Yeah.
Because when I literally put side by side super polished coin and patina, it was like 0 volts compared to like.
Oh yeah,
the
patina.
Everyone loves patina.
Definitely nicer.
Everyone loves the patina look. So
yeah.
So it would almost do too well of a job. So if it came out super polished and did a really, really good job, I'd still have to kind of go over it to.
Yeah, but keep in mind you don't have to polish it to the point of seeing your face in every detail, right?
But that's how my coins are though. Like you saw that. I can look in that.
No. But you can leave the patina there from the engraving. You don't
right,
have to take it right down to shiny metal.
Right. At least how I'm creating the patina is the compound. I'm leaving some of the residue behind.
Yeah. But you could do that anyway, right? You could, if you do a bit of a hand rub after, you could put all that stuff back on there.
I did see this brass.
Yeah, they make stuff. I don't like it.
I've never tried it.
Things too dark.
I've never
tried it. Basically like anodizing almost.
Yeah. I haven't tried it, but I did see it.
Yeah, I forget what they call it. But it just makes everything look black, and then you end up tumbling it off again anyway because it's too dark.
Yeah, and to the point too of like I'm literally taking saltwater attachments and putting it with a keychain. So sometimes you got to think outside the box because my whole thing was I didn't want this coin sitting clipped on someone's back pocket, and then the coin flip weird and it just awkwardly it's not sitting flat, you know. And also being a lineman or electrician doing inside work, if this got caught on something, I don't want to be blamed for doing something. So what would be the right way to do it? So
yeah, those are better anyway because they're stronger than those crappy ones that you buy online, right? They're the standard keychain swivels. They're just brutally bad. Like you touch them and they'll come apart.
Right, and that's for
that
saltwater.
coin probably weighs what 4 or 5 ounces. And you don't need to have somebody lose it unless you want to create a regular market for them. But
yeah, but and they're fairly inexpensive. But I was kind of really thinking like, how am I going to do this? And I was thinking of a spoon lure. And then I started looking up saltwater, and my wife's like, "Why are you looking at fishing stuff?" There it goes.
Yeah, deep sea spinner or
that's what it is. Yeah,
swivel.
Yeah, it's a saltwater fishing attachment. Yeah.
Yep. There's lots of those around me.
Yeah. Chris said, "LOL, close to me can drive for 4 hours." Watch out, Roger.
Yeah, it's already put away. Granddaughter took care of it.
Don't be watching Roger's house. He's got cameras.
Yeah, we do have cameras.
Yeah. Captain said, "Have you heard about the BOI form that small business owners need to file?" No.
What does the BOI stand for?
Bring your own info.
Business something income.
Yeah. No. But every state, every country, there's all little variations. When I moved to Michigan, when I moved from Michigan, I live in Kentucky now. There was this form that I didn't fill out for like 5 years, and I had to pay. Like I had to get caught up on it. I didn't even know it existed. So,
yeah, Roger didn't know he could do that either. OnlyFans. Steven said, "Take stock you can sell from an empty wagon."
You can't sell.
Yeah, can't sell from an empty wagon.
Can't sell.
Yeah.
It's true.
How's Mexico treating you, Roger?
Treating me well down here, although it's a little cool for Mexico. It's only got up to 80 today. That's pretty cool for down here. You see a lot of the locals wearing sweatshirts.
Yeah, I think
I'm still walking around in shorts and.
Yeah, I always think that's hilarious. So I see family like that, and they're like, "It's winter time." Like, dude, are you retarded? I'd be shirtless.
See, and I was walking out on my deck yesterday in my bare feet. So
yeah.
Now, we did have kind of a bad day today with the wind. The wind was so strong that you went down on the beach, you got sandblasted. It was picking up that loose sand. We actually had sand drifts forming. Instead of snow drifts, we had sand drifts. Yeah, so I wasn't down on the beach very long today. That was getting kind of brutal down there.
Chris said, "I was watching a guy set up his table. He had 2 clear spots with sold out tags on them. He says it gets people to ask what's sold out, and he promotes the item and brings it to market." That's so funny. Yeah. I've seen jewelers do that. I've seen jewelers do that, actually. They have more than one of the same thing. Like they'll sell the ring and they go down and bottom and they pick it right back up.
Yeah.
Like they have 3 of the same watch, but they're not going to put 3 of the same watches out. They just put it at the bottom counter, and that watch sells. They put another one right up top. So because the other thing is, someone's walking past your booth. If you had 5 of the same thing, they're like, "Oh, we'll get it on the way out." But if you only have 1, they're like, "No, we got to get it right now because somebody else might buy it."
Urgency.
Yeah.
Yep.
Love your guys' show. Enjoy the advice on various topics. Not to be mean, but when I first jump in, I was amused by the fact that one of you is putting off tourist vibes.
I'm gonna guess that's Roger.
I was gonna guess
my
Steve.
shirt.
I was gonna guess Steve from his background.
Sure.
He's giving great nature walks.
I live near the beach, so yeah.
And
the North Atlantic isn't quite the same though.
So Roger, do you want to give your spiel on how your side hustle enables you to be able to do this tropics variation?
We do a good business with our 3D printed items and our different craft items, things out of the wood shop, and of course we also have a nursery. That's nursery with plants, not little kids. So it's that type of nursery, and we do well with it. And even though we're both retired, it makes us it's plenty of a side enough income that we can take these trips 3 or 4 times a year during the winter, get away from the cold and the snow and stuff in the Midwest that Rick is now suffering with, and I'm not.
The one thing I wanted to say is that I told my wife, and it's really hitting on what you said, Roger. When I bought my home, the guy was literally, when he retired, he couldn't afford the home that I bought from him. So he was moving to another state to be able to retire. And I said to my wife, why the hell would I work 110 hours a week to provide you with this expensive car, this big house that you all enjoy? And then when it comes time for me to retire, we're like, oh, it's worth a ton of money. Let's sell it and we'll go live somewhere else. Well, why did I work so hard then, provided this big house that when I retire, I can't even afford to keep? So if you
so I'm in this mode right now, right? It's not that you can't afford it. It's that it's too damn big. Like there's only 2 of us. And I mean, my house is, I don't know, 3,700 square feet. Like it's huge, right? So, you know, our plan is we'll sell the thing and we'll move into something smaller at some point.
Yeah. So my wife's like,
and it's not a cost thing. It's a like, you know, I see my wife, I pass her in the hall, you know, every couple days, right?
Well, by us, the taxes are so outrageous. If you don't have a financial savings, if you plan to live off Social Security, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Well,
Illinois can't possibly do it.
Illinois is the second highest tax state in the country.
Right. If you had a pension, a big pension, something like that, then, you know, you're okay. But what I'm saying is that most people, when they get to retirement age in our state, they're moving out of state. They're moving to Tennessee or Kentucky. There must be a sign that says, like, go there, you know, because I know a lot of people that when they retired, they did it, you know, and it's like, and the story that I'm telling, it's not like it was not unique to the person I bought my house from. That's pretty much what happens in this area. And I told my wife, like, I don't want to be that guy. Either I need to scale back my lifestyle and live you know, I don't need as fancy cars. I don't need as big as a house. I don't need as much land so that when I retire, I can keep it, you know, or I need to be able to figure something out that how am I positioning myself in a way that when I want to retire, I can, like Roger did, you know what I mean? So, you know, doing some type of side hustle, not to say that he didn't bust his butt in the union forever, didn't have a good pension or didn't have a nursery growing, but the point of these side hustles is he's able to, you know, people jokingly saying, why are you wearing that shirt, Roger? Why are you in Mexico all the time, Roger? I make fun of Roger all the time and say he's part-time Mexican because he lives, for the most part, part-time in Mexico. And he's able to do that. Now, understand that, like, some people, you know, they're not able to do that every so many 3 to 5 years when someone's doing that 3 to 5 times a year. You know what I mean? So to me, that's congratulations, man. That's what every man wants to be able to achieve. That's an
42 years in the electrical trade. You know, I did get a good pension, but, you know, this side work stuff we do is literally what pays for this.
You hearing that, guys? Ladies and gentlemen, stay motivated.
Even though I do live in Illinois and I'm taxed to death.
Yeah. Yep.
Hey, by the way, Kentucky's full. Yeah,
I was going to ask if that's why you moved to Kentucky, because it was cheaper than Michigan.
Yeah, but it's currently full. We can't take them.
No CNC owners or
I've been to Kentucky. There's lots of empty space.
I heard there was someone. I don't know about you all, but you know, you find like reading comment sections is more fun than actually reading like the post on social media, or like you just find like a controversial post and you can scroll through the comments and I just laugh. It's so great. But someone was saying that someone was they were talking about moving from, you know, obviously a lot of people have moved from California, and the top 2 places they're going is Austin, Texas, and Nashville, Tennessee. And someone made that comment, hey, Tennessee's full. I just talked to the mayor the other day, and Nashville can't have any more people.
Maxed occupancy.
Yeah.
Holiday said, hi, professors, from hello from Argentina. Hello, Argentina.
Cool.
Very cool. We are definitely growing a global audience. It looks like Australia is definitely, UK and Australia definitely have a growing strong following, but Argentina, I think that's the first for me seeing that. Pretty cool.
I used to have a software team in Argentina.
Hey, Dave.
Yeah, we see there's a few new names in the list here every week.
Yeah. Holiday says, "Can I do a quick question, please?" Yes.
Yeah.
The point of the live is live questions and answers. Just go ahead and post it in the questions. And the reason, if you're new to our lives, the reason that I read the questions out loud is because not everybody is joining us from a computer or their phone. There's a lot of people are joining us just in their ear. You know, they're at work or they're laying in bed, and a lot of times they're just listening to us.
So speaking of comments and videos, I did this video last week on calibrating your Galvo laser, and the very first one of the things in there was getting your focus right. And the very first comment was something to the effect of, "Is this necessary? I just adjust my laser until I hear the loudest fizzle." And I went, "Oh." I laughed. Like, I had to take a bit of a break, go get a drink, and chuckle a bit, and then I came back and answered it. But it's like, my answer was, now that you have it at the loudest fizzle, just adjust the two lasers up, the two red dots up on the top, and put them together down on the workspace, and you can use them. The comment was that their laser, the two dots that come together on a fiber laser, they hadn't worked since day one. And I have since talked to this viewer, and he did finally get his laser adjusted. So
both my fiber lasers, the laser dots were off. The Nano was
it's pretty standard, right?
The Nano was actually accurate, but both my fiber lasers, the lasers are off. Yeah. And to some admission of guilt, like even this, like on this one, this is the JTP. Right on the front of the sticker, it says, a 70 lens, a 150 lens, a 30, and it shows you how many millimeters. I found that to be off. Just because we always say it's a good starting point. Every laser is going to be a little different. Every laser is going to be a little tweaked, but it's a good starting point. But I do actually listen. I don't stare into the light, but I do listen to that sound when it has like a unique sound. Like
sure, but that can't be your only means of focusing. That's
right.
Right. It was just funny that
I get it. But I'm saying I'm guilty of doing that myself.
To the loudest fizzle.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm definitely guilty of doing that at some point as well.
Yeah. And the thing is, it takes so little time really to calibrate it. And Lightburn, the newest Lightburn 1.7 and now 2 have really good tools for calibrating Galvos. So
yeah, we also had talked about you have a certain piece of equipment, and having one is like having none. And when you start using a piece of equipment, sometimes you dial in that piece of equipment, you're like almost don't want to touch it, right? And you would have like a dedicated machine that would be for one particular item you may be using. Like my 60-watt MOPA laser, I use that for challenge coins. I'm not saying my 30-watt that I can't use it for challenge coins, but I'm going to use my 60-watt. But if I had a bottle opener or something like that, to me, I want to leave my 60-watt alone. It's dialed in perfect. I don't want to mess with it. I got 4 lenses. I ain't changing it. You know what I mean? But my 30-watt, I'll throw it all over the place to dial it in. Not just me, because it's my,
It's just technology. I'm not attached to it that much. I calibrated it once. I can do it again.
Steven said, Rick, Rick is the king of coins. You rock. Thank you. Hey, Clack, I did ask you to do a challenge coin challenge, and you did get a fiber laser, and you still, I don't know. Don't tell me you're cowered out on me.
Yeah, he's got a com marker B4, at least, unless he got another one since.
He called you out on the rice.
Yeah, but I smoked him.
We'll have
Black is on. I will leave a couple of comments here.
That movie from The Mask, smoke them.
Smoking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Dave said, I'm just starting laser engraving, and I have what is this?
ComGrow Z1.
Comgrow C1 5-watt. I have nowhere to start as far as selling stuff. Any tips? Dave, are you passionate about anything?
And what's your local market? You know, what
I
are
had a
other?
school teacher ask me that once.
Are you passionate about it? Are you a religious
Are
man?
you
Are
actually passionate about anything?
Yeah, are
I think
you?
for the word.
Yeah, no, don't, because if you get geeky into something, you can be you can get on the same.
Yeah.
Are you a gearhead? You're big into cars, and you're gonna make colors 442 things, and people buy a ton of those. You know what I mean? Just take what you're geeky into, what you're passionate about, and start with that. But just don't get upset that everything that you like they may not like, and everything that they like you may not like. The customer's always right at some poker, but there's also nothing wrong walking away like, I'm not interested in making it. Like, nah. Sometimes I do that. I'll raise my price, and sometimes like, damn, they paid it.
Oh, I've had that happen before.
Yep.
I raised my price. I thought they walk away, and you're like, all right. Oh man. I was like, why didn't you just tell them no? I'm like, well, it's worth it to do it for that much. V said, Chad is double engraving the same spot or making a second grave off to the side.
Could be. One of those.
I see a training video. V said, I see a training video in the future on those coins. I will be making a members only video, and I'm going to go step by step on everything. I'm going to share all the polishes that I use, all the waxes, the compounds that I use. I'm going to share all my settings, everything. It's going to be a tell-all, but for members only.
I'll do one that doesn't require membership.
That's
at
fine.
some point. Yeah, at some point, right?
No,
I meant to actually do one before
I'm not
Christmas, but I don't think I'm going to have time.
I'm sorry, you're going to have to pay. It took me hours and hours and hours. The little bit of pennies that you're going to pay me, if you can't cough it up, then go spend 4 months learning somewhere else. Just being honest.
Tell us how you really feel.
Well, we don't have that much time. No, I think membership is really cheap. So I think if you're not willing to pay, then kick rocks. Christmas V, it's almost as if it looks like 3D or shifts over a hair and engraves it. If that makes sense.
Is it shifting back on the next line, or is it just like a walking pattern where it's slowly moving away?
Yeah, is it slowly wandering, or is it consistent, almost like a double image?
Yeah, if it's a consistent double image, it's probably one of the things I mentioned about offset or just calibration. If it's walking away, then probably a belt slippage or something.
LTX Design said, I almost pulled the trigger on the longer nano. I'm hesitant due to just being a diode. I really need something that can do wood and metals, but I think I might need 2 different units. So metals, I say with the longer nano, you're not laser engraving, you're etching, right? So anything that's ionized, any kind of bottle opener, any kind of dog tag. I mean, you go on Amazon and type ionized metal. I mean, just about anything you could think of comes like that. In every color under the sun. You're just taking that coating off. You don't need a 60 watt to take a coating off.
There's also coating sprays you could put on. Ceramark's one of them. Actually, there's a dry lube that escapes me offhand, but CRC makes it.
Yeah, it depends on the metal too. If it's stainless steel, a diode laser will engrave it. But
I had actually forgot how expensive this was until Steve brought it up. Like, yeah, Rick, that's $50. And I was like, no, it's not. And I looked at it.
Yeah, it goes a long way. It goes a really I have a can half that size, and it's lasted for like a year and a half.
That's why he told me it's $50. I'm like,
you've got enough for the rest of your life.
I had to look it up again. Like, holy crap, it is $50.
Yeah. You can put the second can in your will for little Ricky.
Oh, so people are mentioning Chad's Christmas lights, that they love their Charlie Brown. They're watching his videos.
Yeah.
Did you use that laser with your jig or what? They want to know now how you're making these jigs. It's big business. Big business, Christmas lights. The full animation, getting geeky into that stuff. LTX Design said, Tours Vibes must be code for your OnlyFans.
I don't have an OnlyFans page. That's Steve's.
That's me. Yeah.
The silver
apparently.
fox. Chad said, after I upgraded my 20 watt, I did some of them, but prior to that, I used a jigsaw. Or as Andy would say, why wouldn't you use a CNC?
I mean,
Yeah, especially some of those characters get pretty big. You know what I did see on a CNC, and you're gonna be like, eh. But and the reason I'm saying is because it's disheartening when you look at something, the amount of work that would go into it, and then you go like to the Dollar Tree, and you're like, what? Like, I've seen people take these foam, like the pink insulation foam that you use. I don't even know what that's called. It's like the styrofoam's pink.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
just
and
called
they're
pink
making-
insulation foam.
Okay, there you go. and they're put it on a CNC, and they're making custom gravestone headstones, painting them. I mean, they look
For Halloween.
amazing, right?
Yep.
But that's a lot of artwork, and they're painting, and they're doing this. And I mean, it looks badass. And my daughter, I was at the dollar store, but I was like, "Hey, look at that!" I'm like, "Oh man, what the heck?"
Yeah, you get some of that
It
granite
actually
spray
looked pretty.
paint. and
I'm
just
not
spray
saying what
it
the heck
and-
because it looked pretty good. I'm like, this thing's $1. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't look that bad for $1. I'm like, I don't know if I'd make my own anymore. You know. But I was
Well, the
convinced.
foam alone would cost you more than that.
I know. I was convinced to give it a try until I saw the bucket. That was very discouraging to me.
It's about the handcrafting.
I know. I just thought it was cool that they're making it because it had goofy sayings, like
Ignore the fact that there's like a container ship full of those things coming from the Far
China.
East.
Yeah. It says, "Here lies my daughter's future ex-husband." You know, it's crazy stuff. You know, like I thought that was hilarious. I was seeing people making stuff like that.
Oh, I have a neighbor, and she, like, her in Halloween, her front yard looks like a graveyard. Like there's just all these crazy stones with all these sayings and weird people's names on them. And
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I get it. It's cool. It's nichey. It's definitely cool, and you could probably sell it if it had something crazy on it. You know, Andy Multicraft said, "Andy, how are your brand new smokers doing?"
I haven't made any in a while. We didn't. So I sold them last year at craft shows. We did 5 shows like between September and the end of the year. This year we've done 0. Mainly that's because we have a new baby, and it's just not with everything that we're doing. There's only so much time. So
yep.
But I've never sold those online just because there's so many of them online. I've only sold them locally.
Classic new form passed by feds in 2021, $590 a day fine for not filing.
that's that BOI form. Sounds like it's important.
Yeah, so I looked this up. Now I have an
Beneficial
accountant.
ownership, there you go.
Yeah, I have an accountant, and so that's probably why I don't know about it. But
Beneficial ownership form information report.
yeah, it's a new federal form, U.S. federal form. I was just looking it up here, and I think it's really easy to file. And I would just look it up, like who needs to fill it out, who doesn't need to fill it out. But January 1 is the deadline. So
I would think if you apply for an FEIN number, they have all that same information. It sounds like a duplication.
it does.
An FEIN number, so that's
Yeah. I don't know. I guess it's who knows. But yeah, I think anytime there's been some comments we're going to go through here. There's been some comments in the chat I've been looking at, and
not for sole propriety.
When you get into business structure and legality, I always default like if you have any questions, you should pay someone that knows that stuff.
Yeah, it says the new report is required for most small businesses, LLC, and federal governments due by January 1st, 2025. So if you don't know, ask an attorney or ask an accountant. Yeah. Or you know what? The IRS, believe it or not, like you can call them and ask them questions.
Yeah.
So if they have a 1-800 number, don't be afraid to ask. Like, don't be afraid to ask so you don't get fined if you're doing something wrong. Right?
Yeah.
You said my business is an LLC, but it's required. You may want to read it if you have an official business form. There you go.
Yeah, if you're sole proprietor, generally it's just anything you make is just income to you, right? Personal income.
Yeah. Yep.
It's when you incorporate that things get a bit weird. You generally need a lawyer and an accountant once you incorporate.
V said that East Tennessee is also getting very, very full. Nobody can move there as well. It said after our new elected president, the number one Googled item in the United States was, how do you move to Canada? So I think Steve will
You can't. We are definitely full.
It's full. I guess you can. There's a lot of room. You just got to keep going further north, right?
Steve said in
oh
Canada,
yeah, if you want to live north of the Arctic Circle, go
Puerto
do
Rican.
it. Or if you want to fight with polar bears for your breakfast every day, it's all you.
Steve said there's a lot of empty room about 8 hours north. Just keep going.
Stop when you see the eagles.
Yeah, if you were flying 8 hours north, you would definitely be on the ice somewhere.
Yeah, yeah.
It says, is the Hitachian 60-watt Mopa laser a good buy for the first layer buyer? And should I buy the 5 lenses? I think it is. That they're great. They have good tech support. They have a good Facebook following. I don't know if I'd buy 5 lenses. I have 3. I don't know if I would buy 5. But what I would do is I would actually talk to them and tell them what you're wanting to use it for. And they'll advise you on what lasers to buy. I mean, what lenses to buy. And they're not going to sell you something just to sell you something. They're actually pretty decent about that. So I would tell them, you want to do tumblers or challenge coins, just talk to them.
I'd say in general, start with a 75 and a 150.
The only reason that I'm saying buy 3 is because you're buying them factory direct from China. So if you buy that same lens on Amazon, it's going to cost you a ton of money.
Well,
so
sure.
That extra lens in there is going to be you're going to be like, oh, I'm so mad.
Yeah. So what's your third lens? Is it smaller or is it a 300? Is it like a 50?
I have a 70, a 150, a 300, and then I actually have another one as well. I don't have it in front of me, but
yeah. So you wouldn't use the 300 very often,
right? But yeah, so just keep that in mind. And you know what? The other thing is that you see this extractor that I have behind me. Because when you're doing challenge coins, like what you don't realize is that metal, just everyone keeps talking about, mirror alignment and all this CO2 lasers. That metal is coming up and it'll actually land on your lens and it starts to like callus because it's heating up from the laser. And you'll notice finer detail. You'll start noticing fallout. So I carry this right next to my laser. It's alcohol. I'll spray the alcohol on it, move the lens around, and then damp it off. And spray it off and then clean it. Because the last thing I want to do is take something that's cruddy on there and scratch the hell out of my lens, right? So that's why I kind of tongue it on there, tap it off, and then clean it. But the extractor, by having these fans, really sucks a lot of that out and pulls it off. Yeah, you can have air assist and blow it. But the other thing, too, is I'd almost want to turn around my camera is I have a cheap, the air, what is it, Wen? How you even say it? Wen, right?
Yeah.
Wen, yeah.
Yeah, Wen. I have a cheap Wen. My air filter is like neon green. From just doing challenge coins the last 2 weeks, my air filter is like a dark brown. So what is that? It's in the air. Now you got to remember, yeah, you can wear a mask, whatever, but I'm doing this in my basement of my house. So my furnace is in my basement. So I also have an air purifier that's near me, and I have an air purifier that's like near my furnace because you have to be mindful of the air contaminants that you're putting in the air. So be aware of that. So it's just not plastics and things like that. Even metals, you know. Let me take this off. That's not from dust, guys. That's weird, right? Look how green it is. So it turned it like a brown. So why is it doing that?
It's all brass.
Yeah.
It's brass. So You know, you want to breathe in brass in your lungs. I'm sure that's not good for you.
Yeah, brass dust probably isn't something you want in your body.
Yeah, so
No.
Chris said, Chad Christmas Lights, check out the grub screws on the stepper motor gears. Most people forget to check them, and that's where they have the problems.
I did have that problem once on a
Yeah,
3D printer.
Yeah, I've had that problem before.
Steven said, when you're selling
Not
stuff,
on
sometimes
that.
it's better to make a first nickel than a slow dime. I would also say is don't be surprised a $10 item or a cheaper item, that same customer comes back and buys a more expensive item. That happens a lot. And every customer can bring you potential customers.
Yep.
So you sell a $10 item to someone, and they come back with a $200 customer that's their cousin, their mom, a church member, whatever. Chad says, double image is what it looks like to me. I'll definitely try calibrating. So that's the whole idea of these questions answer. Obviously, we're here to answer you, but also collectively, you're seeing in the comments below, the community is helping as well. So I think you got some solid answers or at least some takeaways to kind of troubleshoot that problem. LTX Design said, deep engraving metal, kind of like your challenge coins, but for plates to brand on my tables. Yeah. And I think you're good to go with that laser. But like I said, because you're going to get such a big discount on the lens, I would get 3 lenses because you're saying that's what you're going to use it for, but you may use it for other things. And the amount of savings you're saving, you're going to be so mad when you go to price that thing on Amazon. Because that's probably where you're going to get it from, right? Because you're going to want it right away. You're not going to wait for it. You're not going to order that from overseas and wait 2 weeks for it to come. Not when you can order on Amazon and get it in 2 days. We're impatient, right? Amazon ruined us all.
Yep.
Clack says, I turned down 3 jobs today. Too busy right now, and it's about to get busier, maybe in the spring. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the Christmas rush, right? It's like last minute things. People come, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm making gifts. I'm not even making Christmas items. I thought I was.
Yep.
You know, I'm just making gifts, and hey, that's cool. Whatever, man. Whatever pays the bills.
Yeah, and everybody, people come to you thinking that you're like a department store. They can come the day before Christmas and say, "Hey, I need this." It's like, yeah, you can get it by tomorrow, but it's going to cost you.
Yeah, I got in trouble with that with shirts because I'd pump shirts out so fast. People got accustomed to that. I'd get a phone call and they're in my driveway. I'm like, dude, come on, bro. You know what I mean? And so Chris said Western August is full. Western Australia is full, but only along the coast. Plenty of desert for newbies.
Isn't the desert full of rabbits now? I heard they have a rabbit
things
problem.
that are trying to kill you. What are you talking about?
I know Australia, rabbits. Like everything can kill you there. Like they have just dangerous stuff. You're a manly man if you go walking through the wilderness in Australia. I'll give you the credit. Steve has 3,700 square feet in his room.
No, this room's like 12 by 14 or something.
Kayak says it isn't related to IRS. It's a new branch of the Treasury. That's what it is.
The form. Yeah. So, yeah, that's what I was reading. It's like something to do with criminal stuff.
We're taxed when they pay us. We're taxed when we spend the money. We're taxed when we own something, and then we're taxed when we sell it. What are you gonna do?
No taxation without representation. Oh no, that was
a guy I used to work with moved here, actually, not far from me, and when he was moving from North Carolina, and he got a hold of me because he wanted to know information about moving to Canada, and he said, "I have a boat. Is there going to be a tax on it?" I said, "Like what? Are you buying it here? Because that's the only time you're going to pay tax. Like it's like property tax on things that, like the only thing we pay property tax on is a house."
Yeah, Virginia. I know Virginia. You pay property tax on everything you own. So like we technically pay that in Illinois when you buy your plates, right? But like you have to declare that in Virginia. Like you pay. So when you bought your car from the dealership, you pay tax, and then when you file your taxes in a year, they concern that like in income credit, like that's part of your net value. So like your car's worth 70 grand, you're gonna pay. I'm like, so you're like repurchasing the car every year. Like, so do you get to write off depreciated value like a business center? What the hell? And you don't.
Here it's called use tax. Yearly.
Yeah, some places it's called a luxury tax, depending what
Yeah.
you have.
Yeah, I know in Illinois I had SRTA and I got the gas guzzler tax. That was something, you know. I was like, what the hell? Why is it so expensive? They're like, it's a gas guzzler. I'm like, are you kidding me? You dealerships get creative to make up bullshit. I'm telling you right now. And he was like, no, it's a legit thing. Like, Google it, man. Like, it's, you know, Hellcat SRTA, you know, you're gonna pay it. I'm like, oh man.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Until it's not.
What are you gonna do? Nancy said, sorry guys. I'm like, thank you for joining, Nancy. Thank you.
Hey.
Multicraft said, I sold a multicolor sport plaque I showed on Andy's site. The guy ordered a full extruder board with the same sports logo. Cha-ching. Exactly.
Sweet.
There you go. The callback. That's what you need.
Yeah.
Yep.
Chris says, you pay taxes every time you fill your tank on your vehicle. I tell you what I have used in the past, though. There's this app. I don't know if you guys, Gas Up. Have you guys seen that?
I think so.
So what they said is Canada, of all places, came to the United States and bought, at least in Illinois, the bulk of all of our billboard signs on the tollway, right? On the highways. Instead of an old school billboard, they're all LEDs now, owned by a Canadian company. So when you're driving by these signs, it used to say like BP, Shell, and it would tell you the gas prices that's coming up. They had huge signs. And now when they're signing these contracts, they're only getting 18 seconds, right? So these companies are like, why the hell are we paying you for 18 seconds? How many people are seeing our ad in 18 seconds? Because it's always being rotated out. So they have these apps now, and that's how they're pulling in customers by being able to convince you to go there by giving you an incentive, 25 cents off a gallon or something like that.
We're taking over the world.
Yeah.
At least until somebody decides to bomb us for all of our fresh water or something.
Yeah. Let's not get on the FBI watch list by saying stuff like that.
Hey, just to let you know, the Canadian in the room said that. So.
Yeah. We're America.
We've got, if you think about it, we've got two in the US, one in Mexico and one in Canada right now.
Yeah, there you go.
So
The North American free trade deal.
we got North America represented here, like the whole thing.
You know what's crazy that you said that? Actually, I had I've been trying to get a UV laser for a while, and a company told me yesterday, Rick, that they're waiting for this new law to pass on the tariffs before they publish 2025 prices, because they're concerned to advertise, and all of a sudden the prices go up. It's called China's new 149 state policy, and it's going to be this tariff policy. So these manufacturers in China they're trying to sell everything they can right now, so they're dropping the prices because it's kind of unknown what's that's going to be in these. And I did see back and forth that China's kind of like retaliating in some perspective and doing some things back to us. So maybe there'll be a give and take in the long run, but right now there's a lot of unknowns, right?
Yep.
Yeah, some of the Chinese companies are opening satellite stations in like Cambodia and Laos and Vietnam and those kind of places, so they could ship from there without having to pay the tariffs until somebody catches on to that, I suppose.
Yeah. Yep. They get a laser and it says Aunt Jemima's syrup on it, you know. TJ said, thanks for the advice. Been hitting all your lives and chats. Everyone said the same thing about hired and Pascal. Yeah, Pascal. I have not found one bad review. Lenses are only $70 a time purchase, so why not? Exactly. If you're buying a $5,000 laser, if $70 is going to make or break the situation, because that same $70 is probably $210, $215 on Amazon. That's all I'm saying. You know, it's a wise investment. Alberta, Canada is in the building. Oh, hey guys, check it out. This is Patrick Ali. You want to say it, Roger? Sizzler, sister.
Official.
No, the vinyl. Remember we were joking about this the other day? How do you say sister?
Oh, Sizer.
Sizer.
Mhm.
I'm joking because I don't know if you guys seen the Sam's commercial. Pat's actually in the Sam's commercial, and there's somebody standing in front of their display, and they're going scissor, sizer, scissor, and he turns around and says, "It's pronounced this." And he's like, "What?" But he never says like he works for the company, right? So it was a joke, you know. But yeah, he's the one who actually called me out, I guess, on the laserable vinyl. So I'll be getting us some. He's a big dog now. I met him at a trade show a long time ago, and now he's way up there. So I'll be getting us some laserable vinyl for all of us, and maybe be able to join the live and go over some of the products. I'm interested.
Cool. Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I use Sizer vinyl, but I don't have any of the laserable. Everything I do with it is done on my Cricut.
I won't upset him, but let's just say that there's a good chance if you use vinyl, you may have, because there's a lot of companies who rebrand their products.
I don't have any laserable vinyl at all. So
No. I'm saying vinyl, period.
Oh,
I know, but I won't say. But you know, they sell to other brands that are rebranded. We all know how that works.
Yep.
Salty
welcome.
chud.
Salty chud.
Salty chud.
I'm gonna leave that one alone. Hey guys, first time listener, thank you for joining us. If you have any questions, let us know. That's what we're here for. So
Cool.
yeah, someone said, hey, you guys got a little emotional on that Thanksgiving thing.
Oh, now I'm gonna have to go watch it.
We're just thankful, man. We're just thankful.
I'm still
Yeah,
catching up from the week of work I missed.
Yeah, you gotta understand too is that we're actual people, right? We're a person. We're not an infomercial hired by manufacturers to just post whatever they want. We're actual people. So
yeah. So this brings up, I mentioned kind of the beginning of the show. So I had a manufacturer reach out to me, and very nicely. And so it was a question. Do you remember the Onefinity versus alt mill question?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So alt mill reached out to me, and I need to correct my statement.
Okay.
I said that Onefinity had bigger stepper motors than alt mill, and that is not true. And so it's when we get into comparing machines, we share opinions, we share our thoughts, we share our observations, and I'll never apologize for that. But I will correct if I do say something technically wrong and I'm corrected. I definitely want to show that and share that. So, hey, let's ask the Canadian in the room. What do you think? The only thing that was said, you can go back and look at it. Someone asked, it literally just said Onefinity versus alt mill ?
Well, depends on which Onefinity, right? If it's the standard Onefinity, standard stepper motors, the Build Botic controller. I had one, I sold it, and I bought an Elite. Elites do have big stepper motors.
So, here's let's get into a great point. And if manufacturers, if you're listening, I challenge you to release more of your specs. I know people, you shy away from that, and if you go to websites, a lot of it is marketing jargon, which I completely understand. As I do a lot of marketing myself, but when we get into comparing these things, like as far as I know, there's I'm assuming there's a lot what's the word I'm looking for? There's a lot of like having to fill in the gaps, assume about like certain specs, and then there's so many different specs too. Steve, you can talk about this with like stepper motors. It's not just about power. There's
Well, there's open loop, closed loop.
What I would say is, from a consumer standpoint or from a customer standpoint, right? Not publishing specs makes a gray area. So it could also make someone make a bad purchase because someone did publish that information. Yep. And if you're holding that information near dear to your heart, manufacturers, because you're worrying about a copycat, as soon as you filed your patents, as soon as you filed your trademarks, you just gave a blueprint for somebody else to make one thing. They already have it, right? Yep. So the only person you're hiding that information from, realistically, is a potential customer. So I'm not saying you got to share every trade secret, but specs should be common knowledge.
So I will say, again, I'm not sponsored by any, I wasn't told to say any of this about anybody, but I will say I went and did some of my own research after I was politely called out.
He's sitting like that because his wallet hurts him on that side.
What's that?
I said he's sitting like this because your wallet's hurting you on that side.
Yeah.
It was a joke. It was a joke. Your wallet's so fat you had to sit sideways. Keep going. I had to.
No, that's great. I will say I did some research into the alt mill, and just from a transparency standpoint, I have not seen a company be as transparent with their machines and what they're capable of. They've done a great job. Like they're engineers, right? But they shared a lot of information in terms that someone like me can understand. And I haven't seen another company do that yet. So kudos to them for the transparency. And when people are trying to make this was a great conversation I had with the CEO of Altmill. And, but when people, and I brought this up, so when people are trying to make a decision like this versus that, people want to know, what can your machine do that another one can't? What is your machine going to enable me to do that I won't be able to do with another one, right? And right now, that's really, really hard for people to discern between all of these. A lot of these purchases are just made on emotion,
and ironically, that is the job of marketing is to highlight those benefits, right?
Yeah. Or blind faith by an influencer.
What's your value proposition compared to somebody else?
Right.
Exactly. Instead, they spend a lot of time talking about this. This is my gripe about laser manufacturers too, right? They talk about, to some degree, they talk about specs too much. And really, I like the approach that Xtool takes because first and foremost, they're selling you an appliance. And then if you dig down a little bit on the product page, you can find the specifications. But that's not what they're selling, right? They're selling the value. Yep. And that's a much better way to sell things.
Yeah, and then the other side of it too is and I respect this. A lot of companies won't, at least in our space. It does happen in different industries where people where manufacturers call out other manufacturers. But in the CNC space, it seems like that's not. A lot of people don't do that. But I think that's what the consumer wants to know. And so I think it's intentional to hey, I think some people, it depends, but some people don't want to have their machine compared to a competitor's from a ability standpoint or a technical standpoint.
What they don't want is they don't want you to find a blind spot, right?
Yep. And so they're not going to.
I think in the CNC world, it happens less because it isn't a huge market relative, certainly to the laser market, right?
That's a good point. Yeah.
But even in the laser market, you'll see them compare. Here's our laser to the other brand. They won't name it, but you generally know who they're talking about. But they don't compare head to head a lot. And really, I look at it. Well, that's our job, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if somebody wants to say, and I mean, people, they probably do it to you with CNCs too, but they do it to me with CNCs and lasers. Is which one of these is better? And after you get through the preamble of, well, what are you trying to do? Because that matters.
Yep.
I'll tell them, like people ask me all the time, what diode laser do you have? Well, right now I have an Acmer P3 in my shop. It replaced an Xtool S1. The S1 wasn't a terrible machine. I loved it, but I like to do things on long term. So I'm a little bit different user, but the Acmer P3 is an amazing laser for the money. It's pricey. It's not the cheapest one, but I can tell you a whole bunch of reasons why it's better than a Creality Falcon 2.
Yeah, they keep liking all my posts.
Like power.
They keep liking all my posts and commenting on my posts. But it's not. I'm like,
that's your job. Yeah.
I completely get marketing. I think it would be. Here's another. If manufacturers watch us back from. Nice. To reach out to content creators.
I'll show you something.
Like, reach out to content creators and educate them on your machine. If you want them to spread correct information or correct specs, make sure they know. I think that, like Steve, like to your point, in some sense it's our job, right, to compare those and say which is better. Well, if you don't want to be misrepresented, make sure the people talking about your products know your products.
Yeah.
Yes. And I mean, I spend a lot of time on calls. I was, I don't know, an hour and a bit this week with Xtool talking about some things. And one of them was support, because I actually had to replace the controller in my Xtool P2. It died. It did something weird. And, so they were helping me, but I was monitoring this as hey, this is a good anecdote when people say, hey, who has the best support? These guys are pretty good, right? They had me up and running very quickly. But, that's the kind of thing I'm looking for is as a, I'll say an influencer. I hate that term because it makes me sound like I'm sitting on some kind of a pedestal, but but as somebody who spends a lot of time talking to manufacturers and getting to know their products, I have an agenda all the time, which is when somebody asks me, hey, what do you think about that? I can tell them, right? And with ideally without any kind of bias. Xtool doesn't pay me. Acmer doesn't pay me. I just know what I like and I know what works. I'm happy to tell people that.
Multicraft says, does anyone engrave leather? What kind of set are you using on a 10 or 20 watt diode laser? And I kind of briefly showed this. Laserable leather, you do not need a whole lot of power. You could actually do it probably with a 5 watt. So just go in Lightburn and create the file and do it. And the reason I'm saying that is because you may be going for different looks. And you can achieve
there's different types of leather too, whether it's oil tanned or fat tanned or and the thickness of it, whether it's cowhide or buffalo or goat, it's going to make a world of difference. And it doesn't matter what leather you're using, it's going to stink.
Yeah,
so get in a well-ventilated area.
Yeah, and even the same, let's say it's from the same manufacturer, different colors, they're maybe made differently slightly, so that you can't. I have settings for black, a setting for red, a setting so just I know JDS, you can actually buy the sheets. So I just cut squares and I did my samples so that I'm not actually wasting patches, right? And if you actually are like handy with a sewing machine, be cool, because then you can actually make your own custom unique patches, like any size or shape. But but just for testing purposes, I'm not sewing the ends. But for testing purposes, I'm buying the full sheet. It's like, I don't know, 3.5 feet long by 2 feet wide. Cut off a piece and just do my test.
See, when you held that material test up, I thought it was a piece of metal, and I was going to show you this. I was playing with MOPA color this week.
Nice. Claxon,
and
Xtool's coming to America.
Yeah, I'm not sure that'll allow them to dodge the. So I was playing with color on the ComMarker B6 MOPA, and you can.
So are you
do
gonna have to
some
retract
cool
your
things.
statement now? When I kept saying the colors, you're like, they're not duplicatable, blah blah blah. You were
Well,
so...
no. So on MOPA lasers, like diode lasers, it's random, right? You get what you get. MOPA lasers, as long as you're using the same material, like
Right.
like the problem with stainless steel, and I got into a discussion this week with a viewer, because there's 303, 304, 310, 316. You know, there's a million different kinds, and the settings are quite different on all of them. So the one challenge with color, and it's highlighted even more on MOPA lasers, is you have to do a lot of work to figure out the right colors. Once you have it, it's good. You can pull a new piece of the same material and you'll get the same colors, but it's a challenge. Whereas diode lasers, you put some power on there and you'll get some random color and you'll go, oh, this is better than black, right?
Yeah.
But to get colors that are accurate or closer to what they're supposed to be,
Or duplicatable.
MOPA lasers definitely do it better, but it's a lot of work to get everything calibrated, like to build up all of those material tests, so you know.
And to what Chris is saying here in the statements, that I want to say, I don't care if it's a laser, CNC, 3D printer. Whenever you're purchasing any type of product, right? A couple different things come into value. One, customer support. Do they have an email address you can contact? Do they have a phone number that you can contact them? And then two, do they have a large online following? And what I mean by that is that you may even stump the manufacturers. Like, you may ask them and they may have not come across that before. But if they sold 10,000 of something, somebody else has.
Yeah.
So you can email them, go on their same Facebook group and say, I'm having this problem. I guarantee that you get an answer from the community before the manufacturer gets a chance to respond back.
Especially with Creality.
Right. And I'm not saying
that's your only option.
Right, but I'm not even bashing any manufacturer. I'm just saying a well-established community based around any type of product that has value, you know?
Yeah, and some companies definitely do that better. I mean, Xtool, they have a huge market share, so they have like people you can talk to. And when I told them my laser wasn't working, they were very eager to get it resolved. Like, it took a week because I had to wait for a board, but they were quite concerned that it wasn't working. Acmer has a really powerful Facebook group. Like if you are ComMarker, Acmer does too, but ComMarker has a really big Facebook group, and support people from ComMarker hang out there too, and you can generally get an answer very quickly.
TJ said, thoughts on X, Y table and Z tables? Yes, no, maybe.
Are we talking?
What are we talking about?
What
type of
geometry here? Or like,
let us know what kind of equipment you're talking about.
Yeah, let us know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Greg
I don't know.
Does anyone know if Xtool will be coming out with their own brand UV lasers, since ComMarker has targeted the general population now?
I would bet they do. I don't have any inside knowledge. I maybe Xtool will be upset for this, but I had a beta version of XCS a couple of weeks ago, and I looked at it and I looked at the files it was generating. And one of the things they do in these files is they list all of the lasers that they have, all of their models. And there was this thing called a GS300. And it's like, hey, that's not in their product line. What the hell is that? So I've been meaning to ask them, but I'm not expecting an answer. So I would think they will eventually.
It's like, if there's any company that, like, in that space that would do it, it would be them. Yeah.
Yeah. They're really trying to cover the market, right? So, everything from silk screening up to, fiber lasers now. So
I think it's great that people are sharing.
I'm sure they will.
People are sharing their laser settings, especially, period. But my thing is that for leather, just run the test.
Well, there's going to be so many variables there too.
Just run the test.
Variables.
You create that file for free in Lightbird and just run the test.
This gets back to my color experimenting with a MOPA laser. I took somebody who had the same exact laser, 60-watt ComMarker B6 MOPA, and I took their settings, and I did not get the same colors they got. And it's just like, it's a different laser, might have the same name on it, but every laser is a bit of a snowflake, right? They're all different.
Yeah, different metals.
And you just have to run those material tests.
The Acer support is also very responsive. One time I reached out to them. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So
yeah, and that's the thing I like about them. Their support is, I'll say, above average. It's not, I wouldn't say it's awesome, but they care. They actually want to make customers successful. And there are lots of examples of companies that just want to sell you a laser.
There's a fair amount of people already still in the live. So if you made it this far in the live, you're not already a subscriber, make sure you do subscribe to our channels. And if you haven't already hit that like button, go ahead and smash that like button for us.
Yeah. And when you do that subscription and you're watching videos, don't be afraid to leave comments or reach out, because I'm sure I will anyway, but I'm sure everybody here will answer questions.
We'll see them.
Absolutely. And we do
Except
get a fair share.
Yeah, Roger might take an extra time because he's on the beach drinking rum or something.
We do get a fair share of questions and replies as well after this is no longer live. So if you're watching this and it's not live, don't think that you can't leave a comment and we won't respond. You still get the notification, so we can still respond.
Yep. I look at my my YouTube comment section 24/7. I wake up in the middle of the night to check.
No, I have it set on my phone, so when it goes ding, most of the time I reply.
Well, I do try to check it at least once a day, even down here.
Yeah, I reply pretty much right away most of the time. Chris said my standard settings is do a material test to confirm my settings.
Yeah.
There you go. Well said. Well said. Yeah, Clayton said.
Yeah, I mean, if you're doing enough stuff, like if you're working with the same material long enough, you'll get to know the settings. Like I can tell you how to cut 3mm acrylic or how to engrave it without looking at any notes or anything. It's just one of those things. I use it at least 3 or 4 times a week on something.
But so I would say this: you're gonna make fun of me because he said I'm old school. I write all my settings down. So
yeah, so do I. I have all mine written down.
I was just looking for my notebook. So
this notebook is, my wife and I run this Thunder laser, and so anytime we run anything new, or we're testing anything, like this sits right here.
Yeah. That's exactly how I was like, where's my notebook at? Why is it not right there?
Well, I not only write them down, I keep track of all the different settings for different materials actually in Lightburn.
Yeah, so the point is...
Yeah, so do I. Yeah, you build a material library in Lightburn.
Yes.
Yeah.
So...
And don't think you're going to remember it just because you did it 4 times and you come back a month later and, what the hell was I doing?
And just because you saved it in Lightburn with the settings doesn't mean you're going to goof something up. So the whole 5 seconds it took you to write it down, just write it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to do a spreadsheet on a computer or something, you don't want to use a notebook, whatever, just document it somewhere. Yeah. Nancy said, hope you're feeling better, Steve.
I am mostly feeling better.
So did you have the Rona?
No.
I told everyone you had Corona.
I didn't have Corona. Well, I had a Corona, but...
We even set up a GoFundMe page. Feel better for Steve.
Oh, is there $1 million in it yet? Because I can still be sick if that's the case.
I said you feel better if you're driving a Corvette and make you like.
No, the thing is, I'm generally a hermit, right? Like, and I don't know how I got a cold.
I think
probably from this live
for me.
All the contact.
Yeah, probably. All these people all over the world. I caught a computer virus.
Charlie said, you guys are the best. Thank you. Appreciate it. So if you guys missed the last live, you guys, last one was not this live, time before that, November 20th, we gave away a laser, the Longer Nano laser. So congratulations to our winner. I did confirm, I got a tracking number from Longer yesterday, and they actually received it yesterday. So very cool looking forward to seeing what they create with that, and some sharing and posting on our Facebook group. So Yeah, and since we're mentioning the Facebook group, again, if you're not already a member of our Facebook group, I would highly suggest that you join. And this is a community page. So you are more than welcome to share your work, to share your YouTube channel, to share your page. This is a community page amongst makers. There's no hate. If someone's a hater and not a congratulator, we'll boot them. So just but anytime you post anything public, be ready for constructive criticism. There's nothing wrong with constructive criticism.
Yeah, I mean, people generally are polite, but
right. So check it out if you're not already.
I've seen, you know, I haven't seen anybody say anything that's too ruthless.
No, but I've seen like every time I see a post, I'm like, oh man, that's cool. I just said when I go to a trade show, I'm not like, oh, that's cool. But every single time I'm seeing someone on our Facebook group, I'm like, that's badass. Like people are doing some badass work.
There's definitely some, you know, my biggest envy of watching all of those things is there are people with so much more creativity than I have.
Right? Yeah, I feel the same way.
It's like I would never even have thought, like the stuff that Paul Owen does, his engraving on canvas. It's like I wouldn't even think of doing some of the things he does, and it's just like, you know, it's
thank you.
like I'm in awe. Like I said, it's the it's art to me, right? It's not like he's making a wooden box with a laser. He's doing art.
My daughter is very artistic. She's like a freak of nature since she was a kid, right? Like my daughter would cry when she was like 4 or 5 years old because she draws something and they'd say, "Oh, did you trace that?" But she's a kid. No, she could just draw really, really well. You know what I mean? So I showed her some of that artwork on the laser, and she was like, "Yeah," but he did it with a laser, right? But then I showed her the canvas when he made like this orange line and a blue line and a white line. I'm like, "Now there's got to be something to say about that." You know what I mean? Like, you know,
she's the kind of person that would say a laser's not a woodworking tool, too, isn't it?
There you go. But in that same breath, that's why I bought her an iPad. I said, "Look, man, like I understand you like to draw, but you need to learn to draw like that on paper." On a computer, and if you could do both, you're going to be way better off. Yeah. And it was a learning curve for her because they got to learn the pressure and all that.
Yeah, get an iPad and a pen and start.
So
right?
yeah, $1,700 for the stupid iPad, you know. But
geez, we're almost done here.
Yeah.
So there were questions about the Omni One, and first of all, thanks because you know. It's always good to be appreciated. But the Omni One, and there was another one about whether I like the Omni One. Yeah, UV. I mean, if you're engraving, and you don't want to worry about whether your laser will work with a particular material, UV is the bomb. Like it's just the thing to use. The Omni One it's got a permanent place on my workbench.
Yeah.
Actually, that's not true. I found one thing it won't engrave. It doesn't do cardboard very well. If I want to engrave something on cardboard, it won't do that.
Well, how often do you need to do that?
Well, I was going to put my logo on the side of a cardboard box the other day, and I realized that it will cut through it pretty quickly, but it won't actually. It engraves, but it's white, so you can barely see it.
You know what I did think was cool? Whatever, make fun of me. When everyone was doing these pumpkin pies, I thought that was cool.
Yeah. I asked my wife if she wanted me to engrave a pie, and she wasn't nearly as enthused as some people I've seen.
My wife makes like amazing pies, and I was like, "Hey, can I laser engrave your pie?" She was like, "You're gonna ruin it." Like this straight face.
If
you really
want
to
email address on it or something.
She was like, "If you really want to try it, you can." And in my back of my mind was, I might ruin it.
It's still going to taste like a pie. How can you ruin it?
I don't know. I was in my mind just picture like explosion from like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. You know what I mean? Maybe I'll just go to Walmart and try one of those first.
So if you do a pie, try and engrave an image on it.
Yeah.
Like a person's face. See if you can do it. I mean, you're going to have to use like a dithering pattern, like a Stucky or something. But I think you could do it.
I was quite impressed. Yeah. 1 minute left in live, guys. You guys have any questions? Thank you. Post it. Let us know. Chris said laser engraving pie equals burnt pie.
But that's so with a UV laser, that's not the case because it doesn't actually burn. It ablates things. So it would just take the top layer of the pie and kind of throw it away.
Huh.
I think it's still burning it.
No, it won't. That's the unique thing about UV lasers, right? They don't make things hot. Now, the downside is I couldn't make a challenge coin with a UV laser because it's just not that type of laser.
Right.
Yeah, that's a weird concept to think that there's like it doesn't burn things.
Yeah, it's an ablation process. It just basically blows little pieces away to make the engraving as opposed to burning them away.
Chris said, how many pies do you need for a material test? That's why when she said that, I was like, all right, I won't do it.
Next year, you got to be like, hey, honey, I need you to make 5.
I wasn't confident.
If we go to your place for pie, every one of them is going to have a bunch of little squares in it.
Material test.
Yeah.
But maybe I'll post some pictures of our faces on some pies. That'd be kind of funny. But
yeah.
But hey, looks like guys, we're at time. It's 8:30 our time, so my time at least, I should say. So thank you everyone joining the live. I appreciate it. Happy hump day, as we say. Appreciate everyone's time, the comments, questions. Appreciate everyone's posts on Facebook and who has joined our Facebook group. Definitely inspiring artwork and the people are posting. And I'll see you guys on the next live. You guys want to say anything on the closeout?
Well, see you all next week.
Yeah, see you next week.
Yeah,
thanks for hanging out with us.
It's been fun. Yeah, thanks for coming out.
God bless everyone. See you next week.
See ya.
Bye.